That's a bit more like it. I know it's warm, but warm is hot. Just like Barbados, yeah? Anyway, welcome to Bring Back the Love. Okay. I'm Andrew Reed, one of the directors. I just want to let you know about our health and safety. If there is an emergency going on, please go straight into the playground area. Okay, do not head back the way you came out. Just go straight into the playground area. We also do have some water if any children get dehydrated on the side. Just see one of our ushers. They will give you some water. And also, what else do I need? Mobile phones, obviously, put them on silent. If you can do that from now. All right, and just last for me to do is just to introduce our host, a long-time friend and colleague, worked with the group for many, many years. You might have seen her on the Comedy Network, and her name is Sheba Montserrat. Can you put our hands together?
Hello. You can hear me anyway. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
How are you doing?
Okay.
So you may experience me melting before your very eyes, but hopefully we'll melt together. It's kind of hot in here. So welcome to Bring Back the Love, which is all about love, and it's a production of Black Arts Performance. Give by round of applause. Who's here for the first time? Who's never been to a back? Just applause. By round of applause. Just over here. If you've been before, let me hear. Okay, so it's about 50-50. Thank you. Okay, so it's about 50-50. So let me just give you an idea of what's going to happen. We will have some young people doing a dramatization of a situation, and then our esteemed panel, who I'll introduce in a minute, will give feedback on the situation, and then it's over to you, the audience, to give some feedback. Now, the reason why we're here, the event is called Bring Back the Love, and we're solutions-led. So that's what we're looking for. It's really a beautiful thing that the community could come together and discuss issues that are affecting and upsetting us all. And I love that we've got so many different age groups. Before we go on, let's just hear from our panel and get to know who they are and where they're from. I sound like Silla. Blind date. But so, guys, I'm going to start from the far end. I know usually ladies first, but why not switch it up a bit? Okay, and I'm going to start with Tilo. Tilo, if you could just imagine it's an elevator pitch, yeah? It's all good. This is what I like about live. These are the bits they cut out on the television, but when it's live, it's live. Yeah. All right? Tilo, if it's an elevator pitch, just an idea about who you are and what you do.
Hi there, my name is Tilo Vassiliou, and I am the director to A Creative Collective. We supply specialists for fashion visual developments. Now I'll leave it there actually.
Thank you, Tilo. Okay, and Dean, who are you, where'd you come from? And what type of data are you looking for this evening? I mean, sorry, Dean, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Don't get me in trouble.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm Dean Okai. I'm a business owner and a problem solver. So my role within my community, in our community, is as a reverse engineer to see how it's done functionally, deconstruct it, and then reconstruct it with the teams of us who are capable.
Problem solver, that sounds good to us. Thank you, Dean. Daniel, tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Hello, my name is Daniel. I'm a youth worker from Waltham Forest Council. I've recently done an interview with BBC, so that's available on BBC iPlayer. It's a bit about my story and my life.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. And for me, the rose amongst the thorns, tell us about it.
Hi, my name's Fumi Florence Cole, and I'm a young person solicitor, so I specialise in education law and community care law, so a lot of young people who are being unfairly excluded from school, and a lot of young people are in the care system, and I was at Oak Hill yesterday and Feltham on Monday, so I'm representing a lot of young people in our system, and the majority of my caseload, unfortunately, is 95% black, so it's something that's very dear to my heart.
Okay, thank you so much. Can we give the panel a round of applause? So, as I said, the format is that we will watch a dramatization. The panel will give their feedback, and then it's over to you. I'm going to have to be really strict about the time that when we come out to the audience. It's just 1 minute per person, only because we have so much to get through and we have time limits. So if I appear to be rude, it's just because I'm a bit rude sometimes. All right? All right. Our first sketch is called Remembrance. It's written by Pauline Campbell, and the actor is Zahani Lewis. Thank you.
Grandma, I started the day with a lie. Mum thinks I'm at school revising for my GCSEs, but I had to come. I've never been to a funeral before. I've only ever seen them on TV, where clouds are grey and people are dressed in dark black coats. But today is a bright, fresh day. The sun is shining. I'd like to think it's shining for Josh. Earth to earth, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, said a vicar, talking about a young man he never knew. I can't look his mother in the eye, can never let anyone know. I watched him hiding under a bush at the back of Samuel Road. The silver blade of the large knife shone in the dark. I waited until he was gone, removed it from his hiding place, determined to get rid of it. I wanted him to be safe, you see. Didn't want the police to find it on him. But then I remembered what he said to me. I need it for protection, he said. So I did the only thing I could do. I left it there to secure my friend's safety. When it happened in that horrible moment, when the attackers managed to get the knife, his knife away from him, the silver blade I returned to his hiding place the day before, ended his life. It's like I'm out of my mind looking down on myself, knowing that I've done something so wrong and I refuse to face it. Because if I take on the guilt, it can kill me too. Because of me, they won't think of Josh as a 17-year-old who wanted to be an artist. They'll think of him as just another victim. Josh Wright will have no name, no identity. He'll just be a statistic like all the others. But I, for one, refuse to think of him that way. I'm going to talk about him every day and tell everyone how he loved to make people laugh and always was smile. I was the most talented person I ever knew. If I hurry, I can get back to school. Because no matter how painful, Josh wants me to go and live in. And even after everything that's happened, I don't have the right to waste my life.
Picking us up in fine style. So there we have a young lady, the character, not Sahani, but the character, by default involved with street violence. I'm going to go to the panel straight away. And I want to ask you, are we dealing with an angry generation? And if so, what is the culture of this anger coming from? Does anybody want to, I don't want to, Dean, you want to go?
It's not so much that they're an angry generation. They're a generation who've created their own culture, which is counter to our culture, because we've been scared in articulating and demonstrating our culture. As a people, we're obligated to uphold, promote, and preserve our, uphold, promote, and preserve our culture, right?
Yes.
As every ethnicity should. But we don't. We're the funny people.
Yeah.
As I'm talking to you, tell about the boy, yeah, so there were, because people come in the room. So we're the only people who apologize for who we are. And then traditionally, generation on generation, we send our children to an institution that is there to eradicate their culture, because you're supposed to integrate, right? So if the integration hasn't worked and we're betraying our children, why would they continue to follow us? So they just set their own trend. The problem of it is that they've created a Lord of the Flies, because for lack of a prevailing wisdom, they've created a peer wisdom, which is no wisdom. And because we are traditionally repeaters, having taken on 30 or 40 years of indoctrination, what do? The law's not on our side in terms of dealing with and chastising our children. You ever beat your picnic for fine art? Or you just make them run ragged and do what they want? Until at 14 you're saying you're not going outside, and the next thing you hear is kaboom, like you're English.
Are you sort of saying that we need to go back to beating our children?
It's not beating our children, because I'm a parent, and I wouldn't dream of beating my child, because I'm not a slave, and my child isn't a slave. And slave values for punishing my child are not within my lexicon.
Okay.
So I communicate.
Yeah. I just want to clarify that that's not what you're saying. But for me, due to the nature of your work, I really would like to ask you, are we dealing with an angry generation? And if so, why?
It's quite a deep question, because I think some of them are very angry, yes, because I think a lot of them feel let down. From my own experience, a lot of the young people have said to me that we're not listened to, we're not understood. There's also the issue of going back to what my brother was saying in terms of just where they're coming from, because I ask a lot of these young people, you know, sometimes I have to fill out the legal aid form. And when I'm filling out the legal aid form, it asks about your ethnicity, it asks about your disability, your age, and so on and so forth. And a lot of them are saying to me, I don't know what that means. What is ethnicity? They don't know what that means. So I'm sitting in a room, obviously having to go through some of the process, but then I'm always taking extra, because I always get into trouble for taking extra, but I'm sitting down and talking to the young people about roots. Some of them haven't even heard about that. So there's a lot of misunderstanding. There's a lot of our history that they don't know, and some of their parents don't know. And the problem with that is that some of their parents are either dead. I'm dealing with children who are orphans. I'm dealing with children who have got parents who are drug addicts, and I'm dealing with children whose parents have just put them in the care system because the parents can't cope. So it's pretty systemic. And so yeah, on that side of things, I think they are angry, and they're misunderstood, and they feel isolated.
Right. And lack of cultural
cultural background, definitely.
Yeah. Thank you for me. Dean? No, sorry, Daniel. Okay, Daniel. What can possibly be going through a young person's head? Is there a thrill to picking up a knife, putting it in your pocket? Is it a thrill? Is it fear? Or is it confusion? What?
First, I think it's all of the above. In this day and age, there's so many different ways into kind of gang culture, and there's so many different reasons why a young person will pick up a knife or stick it in their pocket. So from some of the common ones that some of us kind of know, kids that kind of went through poverty and might have, abusive situation, didn't have the best upbringing in life sort of thing. That's kind of put a bit of a chip on their shoulder. They've grown up with a lot of anger and a lot of hatred towards the world, and this is an option for them. The same way right now it's an option for all of us. We all can take that option, but they're not viable options for us, because we're in the right state of mind to know that this is an option for me. A lot of these kids ain't in the right mind state to understand that this option I'm about to take is going to potentially destroy my life. You understand? So that's just one kid's perspective on him wanting to carry the knife. Now there's the perspective of, you're being bullied in school, and you're hearing that the local gang in the school are saying that they're going to chef you up or they're going to shank you, and all the other kids are saying, oh, so-and-so's after you. Now where you feel? You know what I'm saying? In this generation, you're going to want to protect yourself. In his head, he's going to want to protect himself. So through peer pressure and now influence, he can now end up picking up on that. There's multiple different ways.
Yeah, it's not a straight answer, is it really? Tino, just feed us back some of your first thoughts on the sketch.
To go on what you asked, I think confusion causes anger. When I speak to a lot of the young people, and when I'm telling them the things I do and what, they're looking at me like it's alien. Like, can that be done? I feel like no one's taken the time to tell them anything different. And not only that, we've lost that community. The reason why I said it because Fumi mentioned that there's some kids that don't have parents. Because I was going to, some of the conversation I'm going to talk about starts from home. What's the saying? It takes a village to raise a child. So if they don't have parents, we still have accountability. Yeah. I remember when I used to get in trouble, and God forbid if one of my mom or dad friends saw me, because by the time I get home, my mom and dad know I'm grounded. I'm grounded, etc.
Yeah.
So I think going back to that, I don't think they're angry because they're confused and they don't know anything different. So gang culture, street life seems to be the only way.
Thank you. Thank you to the panel. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to comment on the sketch that we saw, or anything that the panel has told us? Don't be shy, telling me. Is there any? Oh,
I've got the mic. That's what I'm
oh, there's a
saying.
mic there. Yeah, but you don't have to shout. You don't have to project. Oh, there's a lovely lady here that wants to make a comment.
Sketch.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Fantastic. Thank you. I'm Julie. Nice to meet everybody. I'm really glad to be here. The young lady, fantastic.
Yes.
Loved her presentation. Really focused, professional. So, I just had one question. So a character like that in her position, who had the knife and saved it, put it in a safe space for her friend, if she had sort of come forward about that, what happens to somebody like that who had something to do with the weapon? I'm just curious because of sort of like bystander kind of behaviour. In my area, we recently had the murder of a young man called Calvin on my road, and 22. And obviously the problem they've got at the moment is no one's coming forward. The witnesses who saw four masked men or four masked people and hooded, they can describe that only, but no one at all is coming forward, and everybody's desperately trying to get people to come forward. So someone like this character here,
Yes.
how does a character like this maybe come forward, and what kind of trouble will this character get into?
That's a great point. We're going to have to look at that later on as the sketches go on. That's a beautiful point,
Okay.
because just the trust of authority,
Yes.
or the mistrust of authority isn't there.
That's
And by default, we had a young character who was involved in crime
Yes.
despite knowing better. And what you said is by default, people
By default.
can become involved in something they don't want to be involved in.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, so let's move on. Our next sketch is Feuding Parents, written by Lyndon Walters, and the actors are Daniel and Belle. Feuding Parents, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, Stanley. Stanley. Who is that man at your door?
What man?
The man with the nice car?
What car?
Don't play games. I saw him arrive. Come on, open the door.
Well, maybe it was the postman with a parcel.
Liar, liar, pants on fire.
What makes you say that?
I heard your mum ask, what are you doing at my door? And he said, I'm here to collect my son.
Well, how many times do I have to tell you, stop poking your nose in my business?
Your nose is growing by the minute like Pinocchio's.
Okay. It was my dad.
I knew it. I love his wheels. Have you ever been in it?
Yes, I have.
He must be rich to own a car like that. Why does he not live with you?
You sound like the social worker who visits my school. She keeps asking that same question.
Oh yeah? What else does she say?
If I'm unhappy at home without my dad, she can place me with foster parents. Who cares?
Should social workers be allowed to entice children to leave home?
No. Anyway, why did your dad not live with you?
I asked my mum. She says neither her nor I need him in our lives. He's just a sperm donor.
That's odd. My mum says the same thing about my dad too.
Our dads must be identical twins.
Sometimes you're a real muppet.
I feel more like a puppet placed between my parents. I'm being pulled between their spiteful arguments.
That reminds me of children in the playground. Have you ever told your mum how you feel about this?
No, not really. It's pointless anyway.
What makes you say that?
She hates my dad. I heard her tell him that each time they speak.
I'm wondering, What causes one parent to hate the other?
No idea. It's awful to experience parents who hate so much. I feel guilty that I'm the cause of their disputes.
Well, don't. Because parents shouldn't be allowed to show so much negative emotions around us children.
At least you have a relationship with your dad. I don't.
Have you ever seen him?
No. He might as well be dead.
Oh, don't say that, Keely.
Why not? He plays no part in my life. I've never even seen a picture to see what he looks like.
You've never even seen a picture? Wow. Don't know how I'd feel about being in your shoes.
Children seem to have no rights or choice in our parents' decisions. Viewing parents need to be better aware how much children are hurting from the confusions they create. Ah!
Keely! Keely!
Well, that went to the heart of the matter. It really did. I mean, Tino, you were talking about family and parents. Where can we start to, I don't want to say educate parents on loose lips and how they talk about each other to their children. I'm going to say, where can we start to educate parents? What can we do with this sticky, ugly situation?
I hope I don't say this the wrong way here.
Just speak from the heart.
I remember some years back, someone said to me, as you get older, you get stuck in your ways. I think sometimes we need to, like, maybe from a young person's point of view, but to an elder, we kind of need to, like, bring them back down to earth. And what I mean by saying that, say this is, I think parents should be a lot more truthful with their children, so that they have an in-depth understanding why his mum says his dad's a sperm donor. Not that that's pleasant, sorry. But better example, my own life experience.
Yeah.
With my dad, me and him never got along. But you see, the day I turned 18 and life for me kind of changed, yeah, I started to understand all my days. I know what he went through, what it's like. I don't have my own kids or anything like that, but I had a lot more understanding. And then I questioned him, like, straight, tell me, I want to know. Whether it was what I wanted to hear or not, it gave me reassurance, understanding why my mum and dad was like that, why things went the way they did. And sometimes people just grow apart.
Yeah.
But that was where I got more reassurance when my dad was truthful with me. And then I questioned my mum and she was truthful with me. And now I'm at peace with it. So I think we kind of need to tell elders, however it was 10 years ago where you say you don't keep your kids away from it, keep them in the other room. You can't control that, you can't hide that. They're going to see it whether they're in their household or at school or on road. So another example, I told one of my cousins, sorry I know I'm going on, she's got a little one, and I said to her, he swore. And she obviously told him off, disciplined him and stuff like that, but I said to her, explain to him what a swear word is. Not that I advise anyone, but when you should use it, when you don't use it, and who. Because we all use it. You can't control it. Whether you want your child to never swear and say yes sir, please sir, and all of that, they're going to swear. They're going to forget to say thank you. But educate them. When to use it, when not to use it, why to use it, so on.
Thank you so much. Do you think it's acceptable, our business, to challenge a brethren, a cousin, a brother, an uncle, or whatever, who we know isn't looking after his children and doing the right thing by his children? Do you think that any of us have the right to step in and tell him about himself?
Only all the time, but I believe I have the authority to do that, having the experience. Me and my son's mum broke up when he was 5, and it wasn't pleasant for either of us, but I kind of went into a machine mode for 3 years where I was up at 5 o'clock, and even though I wasn't with her, and when she had her partner and I had my partner, I would go there and bathe him at 7 o'clock, making breakfast in her house, having the relationship with her partner, who she may have been confused because I bought the man a brandy on Father's Day. I said the man spend more time with my picnic than me. Then I can't have any bad feeling with this man, because I am happy within my life. You should be happy within your life. And it's not to say that any of that is easy within it, but we also made a decision to take him out of school when he was 7 and homeschooling between us not being together. So it made a big adjustment in our lives for me within business to take out whatever day, and for her to shift her life because she's a creative. So you must have a contract between you that, as bitter as you may feel about each other in any instance, you can't transfer that to your child. So the initial question, and I'm not going to take long, I'm going to be very succinct. I have been through it with certain brothers that feel to cut for a period. But in that period that they cut, I've let them know what I've gone through and said that's where you make room for the devil. The period that you cut to find yourself is where you make room for the devil. And if you are in a position where you can look at this child and say they can reject me when they come of age, go do your thing.
Yeah. Can I just ask you, you're saying that a brother feels that there's a period of use your terminology to cut. How can anybody justify stepping out of a child's life? I'm not judging. I just want to know: is there anybody here who knows of a situation where they can understand? I'm seeking to understand where a man says, "I'm going to step out of this situation for now." Is there anybody who can give me a little bit of feedback on that?
Speaking from my own experience, I didn't like my dad at all. And the reason was because Dean's a thoughtful, responsible person, but he wasn't. And he really, I was just a byproduct of his carnal desires. And that's the problem, because I have brothers and sisters where we're the same age, but we're not the same mother, 3 of them. And reaching someone like that, it just, I don't know how. I never got on with him. He's passed on now. Yeah. Never got on. I couldn't get him to see what you were saying in terms of, he didn't see me as someone to love, because for him it was just, okay, I've slept with this woman, another child, and that was it. So he never made the connection that he had children. So
some people are just not reachable.
Yeah, just not reachable. My dad wasn't.
And he was one of them. Okay,
Yeah.
so and you're the other end of the spectrum.
Yes.
Thank you for that. But does anybody know somebody where they can justify that person? Because your father was unreachable, but some people just don't want to feel it's okay not to do the right thing. Is there any brothers in here that would feel, okay, I'm not seeing my children and I want to... It's okay, the mic is coming to you.
From my experience, I mean, the brothers that I know,
yes.
Panel touched on something earlier with regards to the mind state of some of us. As growing up, I'm born in the 60s, growing up, my generation, that some of the brothers went through some things that were never resolved. And now they're at a stage where they're now having children. The children are bringing along issues. They're unable to solve those issues because their issues haven't been resolved. And it's the same for some of the women as well. They've got some issues that have just been buried and not been resolved. So it's very difficult to try and resolve other people's issues when you have all these things bubbling underneath and you have no way of understanding why you feel like this and why you act like this. So I think, you know, I teach maths and physics, and the students that I come in line with, you know, when I speak to them about some of the issues going on at home, because somebody mentioned about being a sperm donor, so to speak. To see these women, many of these women encourage this.
Big statement, you have to read it back.
No, I feel their pain. But what I'm saying is, you know, if you don't agree with something, for example's sake, and I'm just keeping it very, very simple, you either address it, you know, make it known or deal with it. But you allow it to fester. And once it reaches a certain point, you're then making statements to others, but not actually dealing with the issue that's there. And that's my experience.
Thank you so much. Thank you. For me, I would like to address this question to you. You know, absent fathers, we always look at boys. Boys leave their dads. We forget girls leave their dads. It's the first man you fall in love with. First man that shows you love, etc. With girls leave their dad. What's your experience of looking at from that perspective, girls with absent fathers?
I think there's a lot to... Can everyone hear me okay without the mic? Okay. I think that there's a lot to say about that because they haven't had the relationship with their father. I know, like Tilo, I can only speak from my experience. My dad is like my best friend, he's my mentor. I have 4 brothers, so I've been brought up in quite a male-orientated family. But anytime I have problems, it's my father that I go to if I want to know about the opposite sex and what's going on and things like that. And my dad has been a major influence on my life, so I think it is really important. And equally, I've heard my father talk to my dad, to my brothers, about how women are. I've heard him say you've got to be patient with women sometimes. They're funny creatures. This is coming out of a male's mouth, you know. And so I've learned everything I can from my parents. And my mum would say to me, sometimes you just have to let a man be a man. So I think it's really important that girls do need their fathers, because I've been fortunate enough to have my father in my life. I have to say that, but I know it's not the same for everybody. And the other thing, just going on to, because I've heard even some of my sister friends really, you know, talking real derogatively about the father of their child in front of their child, and I'm like, it's not good. You can't do that. It isn't okay. But also, coming from an African background as well, what we do a lot of the time is that you have to have a meeting with the family, and the elders will come together, and the elders will be the ones to do the mediation between the feuding couples, you know. So that's something that can also help in that situation. Sometimes, you know, I've also come across females, and I'm not bashing anybody, but some of us females, we need to sort of like take stock, because I've seen females using the child against the man. The man wants to be in the child's life, and she's saying no, no, no for whatever reason. It doesn't work, because the child is the one that suffers, you know. So I have seen that with my own eyes as well. So I think there's accountability and responsibility to be taken on both sides in a mature way.
You know, I just want to, the same question about absent fathers to what I call the man, the father of our community.
Okay.
Escape Benoit, can you just say a word on that?
About absent fathers?
For me, absent fathers, it's interesting because I work with a lot of youngsters that are there as absent fathers, and obviously the other end. It's a very interesting fact because obviously it's self-perpetuating, and that's a big move to then start to say you're going to break it. But it can be done because, you know, we have got responsible fathers and responsible, you know, what you call single parent mothers. But that connection has to be made. I'm coming from a marriage of almost 38 years, right? And I'm with, and I keep saying this to young, you know, parents. You're going to get the down and down and down, but if you can hold it, and if you can't, then obviously, and you're getting that interaction where it's not going to make it for the kids, as Dean just said. Come on, we know we're educated, let's be civil about it. The kids, the young lady at the end, are going to be the ones that are going to get hurt. So if we all as a community realize this is going to happen, because it is that perpetuating factor that the young men that are feeding the herd, and then when they have a young man, it's ongoing. And if that cycle is not broken, it gets worse. So that idea of being responsible in any manner that it takes, that's what's needed. And it's the elders that got to tell them that as well. So I don't hold back. I tell them that what they're doing, if it's not working, and being responsible for the children at the end of the day, because, you know, you've got to care, you've got to love your child. Right? You know.
Thank you, Hester. Thank you. Daniel, how does our community differ from other communities? Is this what's going on with us in particular? Black community? Yeah. It's a big question. You can answer that, or you can just give your feedback.
Well, I can try and answer that by giving you maybe a little story about my background and who I was.
Yes, please.
So I grew up 3 siblings and a single parent, my mum. You know, so she's mixed race, white and Fijian, but she kind of took on the more, European, the white kind of upbringing, sort of thing, like fish and chips and, all of that sort of thing. That sort of culture. Yeah. And then, by the time I hit the age 2, 3 years old, my dad entered our lives. And he came from a, very strict Caribbean upbringing. And in all honesty, it destroyed and flipped everything that we ever knew, loved, and ripped it all apart.
That's the other side of the coin now.
That was the other side of the coin. So, and we saw everything, every bitter word, every nasty thing they ever said about each other. We saw it, we heard it. We witnessed my dad do some horrible things. Some horrible things to my mum that kids at the age of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old should never see. By the time I hit 8 years old, I wish that I died at certain points. You know what I'm saying? This is the impact of what these relationships and toxic relationships are doing to kids. Not only did it mess with my mental state, by the time I got to school, to focus on education, I was now so far behind on my education, I couldn't even read a book by the time I hit a certain age. Because all I kept thinking about while I was in school, the teacher telling me, open your book and read this and answer that question, was the black eye that my mum dropped me off at the school gate, sort of thing. And that's what I'm now being left with. That then spiraled out of control. My education got 10 times worse. The audience and the crowds that I started to hang around with were those, what people call gang members. Once again, we see them as friends that can relate to the pain and suffering that I've been through, because they will sit down and tell me the exact same stories. So we found unity, we found a bond within that. So kind of what people were saying before, we created a world of our own to which we thrived in. I ended up getting stabbed from it. I nearly went to jail. All from this conversation, all from these examples. So once again, it's one of the key things when you're in these relationships or when kids are involved. We seem to forget they're our future. Who you know what I'm saying? Who's going to be the next teachers and the doctors? It's things that's been said so many times before, but yet it's like we're not really creating and paving much of a pathway for them to become those doctors and lawyers and things like that in our community.
Daniel, thank you so much. Because you really told us the other side of the story. And, that a present father can be more destructive than if he was absent. But the only thing is you wouldn't know that if he was absent. And sorry?
One small detail.
Well, okay.
We met my sister when I was about 15 years old. No one had ever seen her. Her biggest problem in life was growing up without a father and always wanting to know who he was. That was her trauma. Yes. And then we met her. Finally, once upon a time, it was like this big movie moment. We thought our lives were going to be so happy, and then we told her that that wasn't worth it.
Wow.
So she's got the perspective of wanting a dad, and we had one. But it wasn't worth having.
Wow, that's a great story. I know it's your life, but what I mean is to illustrate the point from either side. Okay, we've got some. Okay, I'll go to this lady, and then I'll come to you, lady with the.
Okay, I just wanted to say, just a point I wanted to make. Sometimes people don't see children as people until they get to a certain age, by which time these children have absorbed all the things that are going on around them. And it's just not, parents don't realise that, and so sort of like the scenario where these, the role play that we just saw, the children are living the lives of their parents and the negative side, and that's not taken into account when they arrive at a certain age and have developed bitter feelings and all of these things, and the knock-on effect and how it impacts on them, like you say, in their education. I'm an educator. How it impacts on them, and it stops them from being able to move on and deal with things in a more constructive way.
Thank you very much. Yes, so it's as if they're accessories They're just dotted around the house, and I'm going to deal with my stress. If you could give this to this lady. Thank you very much. That's a big deal.
Hello. I would just like to say, for me, bringing up two sons, I've got a 22-year-old and a 28, and I brought them up on my own. And my saving grace, a 28-year-old, is when I went into a school. I went into a primary school. I've been working there for 23 years. So the 28-year-old, he was 5, and I would hit him. I would do all the things, all the things my parents did, the way I schooled him. The minute I went into a primary school, and I learned that art of communication and to talk to your children, explain and rationalise. I learned the word how to say sorry to my child, and I remember that was really hard. So I've gone to parental classes. Whatever we've gone through with our children, mine have been through a lot, but I've sent them off to counselling, lots of counselling, and my mum would be like, you can't be doing that, telling people your business. But you do. You get them in your house, they come in, they talk to you. I'm an advocate. I believe in just talking, saying it as it is, allowing the child to talk, and myself. So for me, my boys, they're good, and it's not been easy for them, but the art of communication. Lovely. And I wouldn't have learned that if I hadn't gone into a primary school and learned those skills myself.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you. Is there any other comments before we round up?
Can I throw something into the mix
Okay.
as a solution?
Yes, please.
Or maybe...
yes.
We're talking about absent fathers, and unfortunately, I grew up with my father, and I don't know what it's like to grow up without a father.
Yes.
And some of my friends that grew up without a father, when they got to a certain age, they were longing to see their father, and they used to do things to make attention in school be bad, do anything to just try and get attention to this problem, But one of the things that maybe what we need to do is try to foster positive relationships. Yeah. If the man gets a child pregnant, they used to tell you have to get married before and stay in a relationship. I don't know about those old things, but we need somewhere where we need to stay in a relationship and grow up our children in that family setting and keep that setting and that control and that love within that family setting. I personally don't know anything different.
Yeah, that's if there's love to build on. I mean, that just shows us that two people can come together and have a relationship and there's no love. So thank you.
We want to create love. That's what we want to do.
Yes, I know we've got to bring back, sometimes you have to bring back the love before you can create it. But in summarising that, I would say that for me, what stands out is communication. One lady said how we communicate in front of our children is very important. Those young ears, because their job, a child's job is to absorb everything around them. That's why they learn so quick. That's what their default setting is to absorb. So to communicate and be careful how we communicate around them. And then this lady said, and how we communicate to them. Because even our culture can sometimes paint us into a corner. Don't chat out your business. Therapy is a great thing. Therapy is, one of the things what we have to know is that you sit down and you speak to somebody who's not there to judge you and you can talk. Therapy is a good thing and we have to stop thinking about chatting out your business. And there are some hurdles over which we have to jump culturally. But for me, what sticks out is communication. Okay, I'll come to Dee and then I'll come to Fumi.
I just want to say that comes with one caveat when it comes to us. One, that it should be culturally competent, and two, the fact that now everything is recorded into permanent records. Yeah. And when we recognize that as a community, we're dealing with our own. So we do have a huge community of African therapists who can deal with us because they're culturally competent and they know what they're dealing with. And also their agenda is for our repair. It came to me, I wrote down reparations when I was listening to this, because this is our role within our reparations. This is the spiritual, emotional component, not the economic, that's for them, we'll get to that. But this is the spiritual and emotional component of our reparations. And we must always deal with the cultural competency of the therapist or the person and professional that we're dealing with, knowing the nefarious relationship we have with this state, and that they now have a culture of permanently recording anything that they take from us.
Thank you so much for this. And when you say the spiritual reparation, I think that we also have to recognize that as a race, we are still in trauma. Still in trauma. They're unaddressed, just soldiering on and not realizing all of that's sitting inside us. For me, please.
Just really quickly, just in addition to what my sister was saying over there about communicating with the child, I think it's also very important to listen to what your child is saying as well. Because I know in a lot of our cultures, African and Caribbean, that because you're the adult, the child doesn't have a say. And actually, sometimes the child has got a lot to say. Because some of my young people, I get them to write things down. And you'd be so surprised in terms of what they're writing down and how they're expressing themselves. And even things like drama therapy, play therapy, those type of things that can come out. But it's really important to be able to listen to the child, because I think sometimes as elders, we just think, well, the child doesn't have anything valuable to say, but actually they can teach us a lot. And I'm always learning from young people as young as 5 too. I'm happy to learn from them, you know. That's my... Yeah, just to round up this section here, I have to quote Judge Judy. I love Judge Judy. I do like some junk TV. And she always says something that I think is wonderful. She says, love the child more than you hate the father. It's very simple. Love that child. And even if you don't feel that now, you've got to sometimes fake it till you make it. You've got to love that child more than you hate the other person. And if you can do that, you're going already in the right direction. Remember, this event is called Bring Back the Love. Sometimes we just got to find it, even if it's not there. Okay, give me a round of applause for all our speakers. Our next sketch is called Journalist, written by Pauline Campbell. Thank you.
Sit down.
No, I'm alright.
Suit yourself.
Wait, I know you. Yeah, you're that reporter. The one I've seen on TV.
Yeah, like thousands of others, just telling the world what they want to see.
And what is it you think you see, huh?
See, your world, yeah? Your world is filled with young people consumed with, like, violence, hate, lack of ambition.
Lack of ambition?
That's right, lack of ambition.
Tell me something. When you stop at a set of traffic lights, what do you see?
What do you mean, what do I see? That's a stupid question. I see red, amber, green. Right, what do you see?
I see Garrett Morgan.
Who?
A black African-American.
What? Who? Go through?
Garrett Morgan.
Never heard of him.
Son of the enslaved, who in 1923 changed the world by inventing the first freeway traffic signal. That's what I see.
Oh, no lie. So it was a black man who invented the traffic lights?
Yes.
Right.
I read your article you made about Florence Nightingale.
Oh, what was wrong with my Florence Nightingale article?
What was wrong with Mary Seacole?
Oh, here we go.
A Jamaican woman who was a caregiver to the British soldiers during the Crimean War, using traditional Jamaican herbal remedies to treat the injured.
Yeah. You know I've heard all this before, yeah? Yeah? The network pays me to find the interesting stories.
Oh, really? We don't all carry knives and guns. Among us are doctors, lawyers, scientists, teachers, inventors. That's what I carry with me. Not a sharp silver blade, but a belief in myself. I'm disappointed in you.
Why?
Because you're a brother who's not interested in the good of our race.
Yeah. That's an unfair statement.
Why? Look at the Windrush generation.
What's the Windrush generation? Look, I told you, yeah? There are rules we have to follow as journalists.
And you think I can't see that?
So it's my job to find the most interesting stories.
What? More like negative ones?
Well, they are the most interesting.
We are fed up with how you represent us. When you want the truth and the real truth about who we are and what we stand for, only then will I sit down and talk to you.
What about my life story? What about my job? What, you ain't got paintings? What? Where's my life story?
Thank you, Dr. Errol and Daniel, for your round of applause. Okay, I'm going to put two questions out to the panel. I want to, and you can choose either one. How are adults routinely failing young people, or racism is very covert these days. It's not in your face. How is this covert version of racism affecting young people today? Could I answer either one of those questions? Can I start with you, Dean?
Yes. First of all, I just say what the definition of it is, because we get confused. The status quo is very important to every functional nation. And you see, England, the role of the state is to keep the status quo. Know that we are the biggest threat to the status quo. Now, what is the status quo? The status quo is what it takes to keep unremarkable English people, because none of us is English, you're African Caribbean. So when we say English, we mean Europeans who are white. The status quo is designed to keep unremarkable English people at a high standard of living. That is a very precarious balance to keep unremarkable Europeans at a high level of living. Your innovation, your mastery, your genius is a threat to that. So the guard dog of that status quo is racism, which is a team sport. That team sport is played between the media, the judiciary, if you're really sexy, the military, and all the other little tools that they throw in place to protect that, including the media, our brother who is right there. Now, why are we overrepresented by traitors in our race? Because the status quo rewards Africans financially and socially for being treacherous. Now, we are looking to them to represent us, but they don't represent us, which is why I personally have a policy of not going on European outlets, talking about TV, radio, or whatever, because it's not within my interest. It's within my interest to go into my community's outlets. It's somebody's role, it's not my role. So we must all play our respective roles. But that man needs to get paid, our brightest and best, right? He was a journalist. So now, he must also have a clarity about the role of racism in protecting the status quo and what his role is within that. And that he's actually obligated to his people. And if not, then he must be excommunicated by his people for the treachery that he presents.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dean. So, I'm going to repeat the question. How does society stroke adults routinely fail young people, or racism, the illusion of inclusion, or even, covert racism? How is this affecting young people? Covert racism. I'm going to come to you, Tila.
I'm going to try to think how to answer this. Do you know,
sorry about that.
I'm going to bring it back down to our community. If we can strengthen our infrastructure as a community and we can create our own platforms, then we can easily mitigate that. The reason why some of our own people may be put in that position is because, like Dean said, they need a job, they need to get paid, they need to feed their family, their home, or whatever their situation may be, although they're selling themselves out to do that. But if we had a platform that we controlled, managed, they wouldn't have to take that route. So it's like you starving someone and you leaving them dog food and nothing. They're gonna go and eat the dog food, right? So going back into back into the slavery stuff there, you gotta remember when they took us out of our country, or my ancestors out of the country, they took everything, the way of living, our standards, our integrity, our morals. Like when I was living in Birmingham, I had a lot of Asian friends, and if you see their household and how their parents kind of install their, yes, so we've lost identity. But going back to the question, I feel like if we can all come together, create our own platforms, then we won't have individuals from our culture being forced to eat dog food.
Thank you. Wow.
Thank you. Again, I'll speak from my own experience because I can be quite stubborn as a person, and it took a long time for me to get the types of jobs that I wanted, but I made sure that I was able to get jobs where my employer is going to allow me to be me and to be able to work with the young people that I want to work with and express myself in the way that I want to express myself. And sometimes it might be a case of, well, here comes Miss Malcolm X, I don't care. I know that I want to be able to be honest and truthful to some of the, well, not some, all of the young people that I'm working with. And a lot of the time I've heard young people say that they can tell if you're true or not. They detect it straight away. So there's no point in lying. So I will say, you know, you just have to be honest and true. And yes, I mean, we know people need to pay their rent, their mortgage, whatever it is. And sometimes people do go into jobs with the right intention, but then they get swallowed up by the democracy and the politics of everything. And so sometimes it's really difficult, because one of my frustrations is as well, I mean, my youngest client is 5, who's been permanently excluded from school. And when I have to go and speak to some of these education psychologists, there's mental health teams, and I'm seeing teachers there that are black, but they're not doing anything because they're not able to have a say. And they've gone in with the right intention, but they're not able to actually live out and do what it is that they want to do. So I think, as hard as it may be, I think the bottom line is you have to be true to yourself and true to your nature and live your purpose, because that's, if your purpose is what you need to be and who you need to do. If you're not doing that, you're denying yourself, you're also denying other people.
I think Tino kind of summed it up for me as well. It's about building those platforms and creating our own platforms to build and to work on and to kind of, for us to kind of build and you know, work from. You know, like kind of what you said, with, you know, give someone dog food long enough, they'll eat. You know, and that's it.
Thank you. Can I add? Yeah, to the point. Okay.
To go on what Fumi was saying as well, yeah, because I read a lot. Reading did change my life, mentally, in terms of how I think, pronunciation, everything else. But there's a book that I'm reading at the moment, and it's talking about your belief in yourself. Cut a long story short, if you believe in yourself enough and you tell yourself you believe enough, you know when they say what you put out there, it comes? That's real. That's not a joke. So even like, I work in the fashion industry. I'm not even going to elaborate on that, but I work in the fashion industry, so it's not exactly easy for me, but because of the belief in me, what I stand for, now I know who I am, what I represent and everything else. If you see the things that I've done, regardless of all the obstacles, you would be, I'm surprised. Sometimes people say to you, don't forget what you've done, and it's like, I have to put that back down, all back down to, I know who I am, I believe in myself, I have faith, and no one ain't going to tell me anything different unless it's for the greater good.
Thank you so much. Guys, we're going to take a break before we melt. Okay, it's going to be a 15-minute break. Okay, can we just give a round of applause to our panel? And most importantly, well, not most importantly, but let's not forget our dramatists, our actors. Yes.
When all parties have to return to court one for the verdict, and you can touch the fear and the silence in that room. You can feel it. On the one hand, you got the family of the deceased in the courtroom, waiting to hear if justice is going to be done, and up in the public gallery, you've got the family looking down at their loved one sitting in the back in the dock, waiting to see if his life is over. Because by the time a young person meets me, you're playing Russian roulette with your life. And the way that the criminal justice system is set up for the most serious offences, you're taking on the full weight of the system, weight and might of the system. The CPS have all the resources, the Met Police have all the resources. They will go through your phones, they will know where you've been, they will know your associates, they will check text messages, they will check for all of your social media. they will leave no stone unturned as long as they can show there is some form of joint enterprise. So even one person who may have stabbed the person, but you have 5 or 6 young men charged with murder. And when I was doing my most recent case, in my murder case there were 2 people. The youngest lad was 17, my client was 19. But downstairs in the cells, I would see 5 or 6 young black men handcuffed being walked along the corridor from their cell to meet their legal team. And I hark back to slavery. These young black men shackled, walking from the cell to the room to meet with their legal team, and groups of 5 or 6 in a group, and that's, so 5 courts running with 6 defendants per trial, 30 young black lives gone. When you hear that verdict, guilty, and the judge has to pass that mandatory sentence of life imprisonment with the tariff. So it's not the sentence where I'm going to bust sentence, the man's going to be, no, you tell me a man who can bust 20 years, bust 30 years. I've had clients who've got 26 years in prison. So they go in as a teenager, come out as a middle-aged man. The postcode that you're fighting over, where you haven't even paid council tax, when you come out, you won't even recognize it. So I have to speak out. Because on the last case I did, and I looked at that young man who had been cut up by the pathologist, and he lay on that morgue table when they tried to find out how he died. And my son found me weeping in the kitchen as I was preparing the case. And he said, "Dad, what's wrong?" I said, "There's a young man who's about your age, and he's been cut down in his prime. And for what? For what?" And so, when I made that video, I just wanted people to know, families, friends, youngsters who know people who live that lifestyle, or those who are dicing with it, thinking it's sexy and interesting, by the time you come and meet me, it's too late. Because you're taking on a judge who's not necessarily biased, but he will see that justice, inverted commas, is done. He's not going to do you any favors. You're taking on the responsibility of having 12 independent people who don't even know you from Adam, and their only point of reference, even though they're told not to be biased, is seeing the youth walking down the road with his pants hanging down, with a swagger and an attitude, loud, and that's their point of reference for the people who are on the jury. So even before they've heard the evidence, they're already thinking, well, I've seen people like that in my area, and they scare me. Then you've got to worry about joint enterprise. Because if you're together with a group, and you know someone's got a knife and they're proposing to do something bad, and you're still there, well, guess what? You're going to be charged. First and secondary principles to murder. I'm not saying everyone has to be a lawyer like me. Look, I sweated tears to be a lawyer. I had hair when I started. But you've got to understand the system. You've got to understand the system you're in. You've got to understand that your bad character, your little stealing or your little robbery case, or your little possession of weed, that's going to follow you, because guess what? The courts can introduce and allow bad character evidence into a trial where they can say you have a propensity to commit offences. Particularly if a young man's been murdered and it's over some weed deal, as many of the cases I've dealt with have been. So they can introduce your bad character for possession with intent to supply. So that's why I did that video, and that's why it's incumbent on people. My dad said to me as a young boy, "Son, knowledge is power. Knowledge will always be power. Read, understand the world you're in, understand the dynamic." And as I said to the young lad who I represented, who was found not guilty of murder and manslaughter, I said, "Son, hit the reset button. You've just been given your life back." And to quote George Eliot, it's not too late to be the person you might have been.
I'm not going to add anything to that because we covered everything. I think we just have to breathe in and absorb that, and then try and move on to detraumatization. Thank you so much, Steve. Knowledge is power, but it's fantastic in the right hands. Thank you for coming down here. Another round of applause. And actually, he mentioned joint enterprise, and the name of this next sketch is Joint Enterprise, written by Richard Nayina. Thank you. Joint enterprise.
Huh? What? So you're telling me you're chilling in Michelle's house right now? I am vexed. Nah. It's cool still, it's cool. I mean, even though I only get to see girls on TV, yeah, I've got everything else in here patterned, do you get me? Yeah, I got the wood and eat it out of my hand. Yeah, well, you know, you get used to the food. But look, I'm even chatting to you right now, Marcelli. I'm telling you, G, patterned. Hello, Titi, you there? Battery dead. And I hate this place. There's so many of us in here. So many of us on this joint enterprise team.
Decisions you made landed you here.
Yeah, for real. Decisions we made landed us here.
Thank you to Errol, Francis and Fumi. Watch Fumi down. He's kind of flexible up here. Yes, that's fantastic. Okay, so that was a bit deep, that one. First thing I want to ask the panel is, what does gang life promise to fulfill in a child's life? What does gang life promise to fulfill? Because our friend went bright, and he's talking about chicken and getting something, but it's beyond chicken. The gang is offering them more than just food. Yeah, so one more time, what does gang life promise to fulfill in a child's life? I'm definitely not going to start with you, Fumi, because you just come off stage and you need to just come down a little bit. Who said family? Okay, let's go to D.
It's family. I was with a set of friends from 91 to, let's say, the danger years would have been 91 to 93, 94 in Peckham, North Peckham Estate. And you will see touches of the violence at all days. Somebody set off CS gas, somebody might get poked. There weren't as many murders around the all dayers, although statistically, those who were the worst of the worst definitely were. But there were about 15 of us, and we would go from every area all day or to Trocadero, where young one man was murdered. He was stabbed in his neck. His family though, because the vast majority of us are from parents who are divorced. My mum was a professional, she's a paralegal and a legal secretary, so she was out most of the time. So between 16 and I moved out at 18. I had my own flat, and I moved right back to New Cross. So I had two sets of friends. But it's family. We weren't in a time where they had this predatory thing of buying chicken. We would just get together because we're friends. And if something escalated, it escalated. It just so happened that it never escalated so bad with my group of friends that somebody was killed. But there were things that were happening. We had friends who were robbed at gunpoint in Trocadero. We had friends who were robbed at gunpoint around the corner from us in Peckham. Where we had all planned and carried knives, intending to do something to the perpetrators of the mugging. But it just so happened that we weren't involved in any murders. So it provides a friendship, a family. Somebody's like a father role, you're all brothers. But there's also many generals within that. Within that 15-man crew, I can't say all those guys were my friends. And also it's a very bestial environment where you might say the wrong thing and you might get cussed by every single person for 4 or 5 days, and there's people who didn't come back. So as much as it is a family-based environment, it can also be very bestial. However, when things do escalate, and we don't speak about them because they're ugly, like gang rapes, the vast majority of people who are weak will go along to get along. And we always have to bring it back to the source. That is the approval junkie nature that we have. And that starts in school. So you were asking something before. I know we're on a very limited time, so I'm going to wrap it up. What can we agree on that is the common denominator amongst our community? And our brother Davis is one of those people providing that. Is rites of passage for 100% of our young men and women. Not because they're one-parent families, not because they're great families or they're ambitious, but because it's an initiation into your community where you're given a high cultural identity and self-esteem. And from that, you know the context of you within your community. Now, if racism is there to strip all of that away from you, irrespective of a racist teacher saying it's not realistic for you to go into that career, you've already been impacted with all of this from rites of passage that took you from being a boy or a girl to being a man or a woman within your community. And I defy anybody to tell me it doesn't work. Go look in Stamford Hill. That's all the evidence you need of rites of passage is their bar mitzvah. But the African rites of passage is what is appropriate for our children and defends us against everything, because if you don't uphold, promote and preserve your culture, you are no thing.
I'm really glad that you drew parallel to rites of passage and the Jewish community in this case, because I think sometimes it's destructive when Caribbean people compare themselves to the Jewish community or the Asian community, because for me, the difference between them and us is that they are bound by religion. The religion is tight. We're bound by Christianity. Christianity is a very, very fluid situation. So it's
also
really
the culture. Don't underestimate
and what
that.
holds
They never
us
give up their culture.
and what holds us together is our culture. Culture is a very fluid, but their culture is
not fluid.
Culture can be fluid. Culture is very movable. It's got many movable parts.
We're the result of that.
That's what I'm saying. But the reason why their culture can survive is because it sits on religion.
Yes, spiritual.
That's the point I'm making. It sits on religion. We don't ride on religion in the same way. So our parts are very movable. I mean, what makes culture? Food, music, etc. And these are very moving parts. So what I'm saying is that
spirituality as a base.
And I like that you compared rites of passage. We need a rites of passage. For us, because bar mitzvah, etc., etc. These are rites of passage, and that's what we definitely need. So I like that as a solution. But what I want to ask Daniel, for once you're not going to be the last one, you hinted before, you said something about, as you spoke, that gang life, what I drew from what you said, is that they bond through pain. So what does gang life relieve in the individuals? You gonna go for it?
It's kind of just relatability. And the same, once again, what I said like I said before, kids experience pain and they go through a lot of their life thinking that they're the only ones that experience it, until they meet another kid that's the same age and tells them the same story. So once again, it's that relief, it's that, wow, you can feel what I feel. So going back to what my brother said, it's now family. You're now family to me, because you've revealed a part of yourself that I'm sure you've never revealed to anyone, and vice versa. So once again, the gang life will kind of feel that family vibe, and once again, once that pain is set there, and you've shared that with other young people like-minded like yourself, it will set something very powerful in motion, but not necessarily something positive. You know what I'm saying? Other aspects to it is, once again, those people that are in that position, that are bonded through the pain, now kind of use the outsiders sort of thing. They kind of lure them in with the whole grooming stage of, okay, yeah, come meet me after school, we'll go chicken shop, or we'll go do this, we'll go do that. Here, take a $5, take a $10. I said, oh, where'd you get that from? How come he's got so much money? And then you groom them into, you can make money like this as well. But this kid's got good family. He's got good parents, he's got good education, but he strives, he's eager to be liked and to be, a part of something. And these kids are, kind of what it seems like they're offering him something. It seems like they're offering him a family, a friendship and a bond, when in reality they're kind of, they're being used and they're being groomed. So, you'll have the family aspect of it, and then you have the grooming side of it.
But this is only a decade-old phenomenon. This is new.
Yes, the grooming side of it is a new.
And I'm glad you mentioned that not all gang members are necessarily from traumatic backgrounds. This is important.
Yes, 100%.
This is really important for me.
I think another important thing to bear in mind is that a lot of these young people that are being groomed have got special needs, and so they don't even realise that they're being groomed. I was in Oak Hill yesterday, which is a youth secure centre, and I was in Feltham on Monday, and a lot of the young people that I'm seeing, sometimes they don't even know what they've done and in terms of why they're even there. As some of you may know already, I work with young people as a solicitor, and I've always worked for charities. I don't work for big time law centres. But our charity actually took the issue of joint enterprise to judicial review, because what we found with a lot of research was that a lot of young people, they don't have the foresight. They can't predict what is going to happen because their brains aren't fully developed. And through research, it's been found that a lot of young people's brains don't actually fully develop until they're 25. And so this is something, even from the Jamie Bolger case, that judges are now only, in 2016, they've only actually started to take it into account that, you've got to consider the can this young person see the foresight? There's a difference between foresight and intent. But it's very, very difficult to challenge that. But we won that case, so now there's a lot of young people who are in prison for joint enterprise. They will now be able to appeal, but it doesn't mean to say they're going to get let off totally. It just means that their sentences might be reduced, and instead of murder or manslaughter, it will be manslaughter instead of murder. But it's really, really important to recognise that some of these young people, a lot of them have got special needs. The young person that I went to see yesterday, he still hasn't got it in his mind, in his head, why he's there. He keeps talking about his early release date. Why isn't he getting his early release date? He's just going round and round in circles. So the other important thing that I always try and put in place, what we do at our organisation, is give a lot of support once they've left the prison, because that is the biggest test. When they're back on the street, they're on licence, they're on tag. It's really, really difficult. And one young person said to me also that, why they join the gang is because sometimes it's out of fear. They want to belong. And this is where my passion is in terms of excluding young people, because every young person wants to be included, but instead they're excluding them. Then they'll end up in the pupil referral unit, then they're targeted, then they're groomed. So it's a vicious cycle, and because they don't want to be on their own, that's how it ends up, and this is where you get all these county lines going on as well. But it's a bit of a sad state of affairs, but we do what we can,
Thank you for me. Tina, I'm going to come to you in a minute, and I'm going to want your thoughts on postcodes. Why are people protecting letters and numbers? I don't get it at all. But before that, I'm going to talk to our lovely Deputy Mayor. She's still smiling at me. Okay, I'm not in her bad books totally. Dana Carlin. And Dana, and is John Bevan here? Yeah, okay. So Dana, this is a few words from you, and then Councillor, I'll come to you afterwards.
Seen a bit of what you've done, but I'm already kind of there's a lot of thought-provoking things that are being said. I think this idea of possibly a rite of passage. I actually am Jewish, and my husband's not Jewish, so we're not very observant. But both my sons wanted to have bar mitzvahs, and especially for my younger son, who was bullied at school, he formed a peer group, and it was really important, and has completely been such a stabilizing influence for him. So I think I kind of agree with that, and they do that at 12. So I think that's a really good thing. I think it is just very sad at the moment that kids are being put in this position and ending up feeling like this is an option. But my feeling personally, and as Deputy Mayor, and I haven't been Deputy Mayor for very long, and I have been to a lot of meetings dealing with this. And I think for me this is the biggest issue, and I feel that as communities everybody has to start working together. This is my overwhelming feeling, because we have to create a net. And we have to create a net that holds people. And it holds kids, and it holds families, and it holds parents from quite young. Because I think that's the only way we can deal with it, and there are too many people out there trying to deal with it on their own. And that's my feeling. But thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you.
And I'm feeling the bling. Yeah, man.
Yeah. That's my bling.
Yes. John, Bevan, I know you don't expect me to come up there. No, let John come down. John, come.
He's a loyal friend as well as a
Yes.
counsellor.
Lovely, John. Here.
There you want to take the...
I'll say a few words. I'm going to say something perhaps a little bit unusual, because in the council we're really concerned about this issue,
Yes.
and your help would be really fantastic if you could sort of join the council and help us. But a lot of this problem is caused by poverty and the cuts and everything. So down here, where there's a large black population, you might think your society is taking the bulk of it, and down here you probably are, but up north, where the poverty is in the white community, the gang issue that's down here, up there, it's not black, it's a white issue, because that's the poorest community, or in Bradford it might be the Asian community. So poverty is a big driver of all these problems, basically. So it's not, I'm trying to put this carefully. I don't want you I don't want you to think it's your fault, your society's problem, because it's a poverty problem, and up north it's a white problem and a nation problem. So that's the point I'm trying to make, basically.
Thank you very much for that, John. Thank you. I really appreciate that point. I'm going to have to be really quick. I really appreciate that point, because sometimes we black people are so introspective that we don't sometimes see the bigger picture. It's not us, it's part of a bigger situation. And yes, we do look at the issues that pertain to us, culture, etc., but sometimes it's not just our faults or our failings in our community. So I do appreciate that point.
I hear that point and it's great, but I don't sell the Socialist Workers' Party paper. So there's also another point. Our culture is youth mainstream culture. So do not get it twisted that when we set the trend, everybody follow. So if you're poor, you're going to follow the trend from here. So the things that uniquely affect us, let me just tell you something. We take on rites of passage, we start to exceed and wear suits or wear kente and show you that being this is what the trend is. Make no mistake, poor people up north will follow the trend that we set. So we have to deal with the unique problems that we have, which are based on the lack of cultural understanding by my generation, who have passed that on to my children, who will pass that on to their children, and they're going to be whatless on steroids based on a lack of culture, because our culture is youth culture. So if you're watching drill music that celebrates bestiality or serving up your brother, you're just going to take that over there and you're going to feel you're it. So look at let's not pretend. Look at the uniform that's being worn.
Exactly.
Listen to the language that's being adopted. They have created a culture, our children, who have spread this to other people's children. Because yes, they would be poor and they would be in crime and they'd be sitting by the side of the cemetery like they were 20 years ago when I got up north. Because that's what they do, drink cider and sit by the cemetery. What them don't know? They replicate us. Because our culture is a mainstream culture. So we have a unique opportunity, knowing the power of culture, to infect our children who will infect other children. So it's actually within the nation's interest to deal with us, because we spread that to everybody.
Yes. And I hear that great point well made, but I think it's for us to deal with us on the other hand.
Absolutely.
And stop.
First, this is our
it's for
reparations.
us to deal with us and not them to deal with us to deal with us. Tilo, back, do you remember the point?
Why they join gang?
Yeah, let's talk about postcode.
Oh, I'm just gonna have to use myself for an example again. Alright, two things. Let me just think how I can say this. Alright, firstly, I think joining a gang and representing your postcode gives you a sense of identity. It gives you closure. It gives you, like Dean and Daniel said, family. It gives you a sense of belonging. We was with an associate of, I'm not actually not an associate, a friend, a family. She works in like a very big agency, but she said something about tribes. Yeah, even though it was related in business, but that is a strong point. Everyone wants to feel like they belong to some sort of tribe. So when I joined the gang, it was like, man's from Wood Green, you know. You're from Wood Green. That feeling gave me a sense of identity. Whereas until I thank God I got a family, because if I didn't have that kind of community around me or different individuals, and I had bad people always telling me good. So when I look back on that, I'm thinking, bro, do you know what you showed me? But you're telling me, bro, if I ever see you with this or doing that, and I'm gonna bust your ass, you know. But I didn't get that until now. But I'm sorry. So going back to the question, it's a sense of belonging. It gives them identity. It gives them reassurance on themselves. And something that Daniel said, they relate to my pain. And I'll give you another example is, I say this all the time, like, I think like, I wish more older black men embraced me as a younger black man. I wouldn't need to join a gang, man. I wouldn't need to feel like, oh, I need to belong to these lot because we all not understand each other. Like a random black man comes up to me and says, what do you do, young man? And I tell him what I do. And like, when I tell them what I do, they're amazed. They're like, oh my days. And it's like, thank you for embracing me, because if you didn't, you would have just said, another little black man. Because I don't do suit and tie. I don't believe in it. I don't believe suit and tie makes you any better than anything else. So I go like this. Someone said to me, you going to do your hair for the talk? I was like, no, because on the normal day, this is how I am. So going back to what I said earlier with the community and the family. So if you know my auntie or you know my uncle and you see me keeping up with badness, like, come tell me off. Or tell my parents. So that I know, you know what, bro, I might be able to go talk to my man. I don't feel comfortable telling my mum or my dad right now, but because he checks out for me. Whereas my brethren, it would just be a gas. They're just like, no, bro, you should do it, you know. So, starting from home. And something Lyndon said.
I'm going to have to really,
sorry.
I've got to put my rude hat on.
Yeah, no.
But just take the statistics on the table of 3 men who are on the table in different careers who have told you that they have gone through gangs.
And what do you want me to do with that?
I'm saying look at the statistic, that the problem that is an institutional problem that is there.
That's why we're here.
Yeah.
It's an issue. That is why we're here. Thank you so much to my panel. We're going to have 2 dramatizations. The first one is called I'm Here For You. It's written by Richard Reed. Thank you.
I'm feeling sad.
Why? What's wrong? Just come out with it.
I will! Give me a chance!
Okay, don't bite my head off.
My mum said that my cousin Kwame was killed.
You're joking.
Why would I lie about a thing like that?
I can't believe it. He was only here last week on holiday.
I know.
I'm here for you.
Thanks. What would I do without you?
It's just that Kwame was so talented.
I know. And the thing that makes me sad is he won't be able to see his 16th birthday. I can't imagine him not being here.
You've got to be strong, okay?
How can I be? All these killings are going on around us.
I just want this world to change.
I want to see young people engaged in activities, learning how to argue without killing one another, studying at school and passing their grades, and most of all, holding the government to account for all these deaths. What a waste of human life.
That was Clea and Belle. And let's remember that also while we're here, we're not going to debate these sketches, because we're also here to give young people an outlet for their work, for their talent. So one more time for Clea and Belle, please.
And this next sketch is called Tomorrow. Thank you.
What's the point? I mean, you bust your butt trying to do the right thing. What do you get? No money in your pocket and a pad on your head? That's all my daddy ever got. And it wasn't much different from my mama either. So what's the point in trying, in dreaming? We all know what happens to people who dream. Me, I'm living today for today. Ain't nothing promised. And even if it was, promises are always being broken. So live life for today. Do what you got to do to get by, and when it don't go your way, keep getting up. They always be having that line, go get a good education, son. What they be teaching in schools ain't got nothing to do with me, and I don't know how to make it mine either. How to make what they teach important enough to remember, important enough to make a difference in my life. You know what? Education is for the educated. And when you go to school in the streets or in a building, the lessons are all the same. Take what you need and leave the rest behind. Plans? Plan what? How many women you gonna have? What you gonna eat for breakfast if you see morning? It don't make sense to plan. The way things are right now, planning is a full fancy. Right now, just say it. Keeping alive at the feature presentation, baby. I mean, between the stray bullets from drive-bys, the police searching my drawers, and the job of getting a job, it's a wonder a young black man like me is even around for tomorrow. Much less plan for it.
One more time for Daniel, please. Come up on the stage. Yeah, that's it. Give him a round of applause. It takes a lot of guts to be on the stage, commanding the space on your own. Thank you, Daniel. That was wonderful. Okay. All right. Thanks. So, what I wanted to now, do you remember the challenge that I asked you to think of solutions? Yeah, about what ingredient we can put in the pot to help the community flourish and go ahead. I'm going to start the ball rolling because amongst other things, I do many things, but I'm also a performance poet. And one of the things that I take very seriously is the use of words and how we use words. Words are so powerful. You know, somebody told me that in a government department, one document can go round and round and round and just changing one word at a time, just crafting it and shaping it. Our barrister's nodding, okay? So the words I would challenge, I definitely feel that we should one day be able to call ourselves Africans. Until we get that point, we're just going to be a colour. But beyond that, the words I would challenge is slave master. We have got to stop using that word slave master, in my opinion. The word master is of high achievement. To do your masters, to master something is something glorious. Hundreds of years later, we as black people, it's not even a colour thing, but black people in particular are still using the term that they called themselves. They called themselves slaves masters. And when we think about modern day slavery, nobody ever, if you hear it on the news, they never use the term masters. They call them what they are. Captors, kidnappers, tormentors, that's what they are, not masters. That's a very clean image. Yeah, they are captors, tormentors, etc. So I would make a stop, especially when it comes to October. Don't use that word slave master. Call them by what they are. The other words I would say is, a good friend of mine, Jeff Schumann, said this to me one time. I've never forgotten it. I was talking to him and I said, and when they took the slaves from Africa, and he said to me, they didn't take one slave from Africa. And it's so obvious when you think about it. And the people who get it, when I say, well, they didn't take slaves from Africa, what did they take? People, lawyers, dreams, kings and queens and dreams and people, cousins, sisters, ambitions. That's what they took from Africa and created slaves. We must not say they took slaves from Africa. I'm going to come to that. I'm going to come to that. Thank you very much. You can put that in the pot when it comes round. And of course, I always say I'm not descended from slaves. I'm descended from survivors. Okay? We are survivors. Oh, we overcame something really brutal. Really brutal. It took so much mental strength, emotional strength, and physical strength to survive everyday torment. One day to survive. We're survivors. And we still do it. Yeah? So, well, thank you very much. Thank you. I haven't got much time. I've got to wrap up. Anybody else want to put anything into the pot for solutions?
We take one comment, two comment, and then a minute.
Okay.
Right? And then we got to close.
Just like the two young ladies there who did the sketch, we need to teach our children to talk, to argue, to debate, to come to their differences without it ending up with a knife or a gun.
Thank you. That's a big deal. Conflict without conflict.
Next minute, please.
I think we need to see more positive representation of ourselves in the media and around each other as well. Because a lot of the time when we look at ourselves, we only talk about absent fathers or single mothers and families like that, rather than the families that have been staying together for like decades as well. Or the children that have become lawyers, doctors, etc. and so on. Those need to be glorified just as much as we speak about the gang members.
That's a big deal.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
30 seconds you got.
Okay, yeah. I just really feel that, no one is going to help us as a people. We're going to have to help ourselves. And if we do get help from anybody else, yeah, it's always going to be a way of them tricking us.
Solutions.
Again.
We want solutions. This is very much about solutions.
Okay, but
right
I'll
now.
get the solution anyway.
Yes.
So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Okay.
A quick solution, quick, maybe after the wrap up.
I just feel like we just need more unity as well. We just need to help each other out a lot more. Because look at all the other communities.
How would you get unity as a solution?
Yeah.
How would you do
Just
it?
a let's not talk about other communities. What solution for us?
More youth clubs.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
That's it. I think
That's
we've
it.
got to wrap up.
I'm gonna have to pass it over. Oh,
Yes, we need to be together as family. We're very fragmented, and that's what we need to repair our families and have closer community that we can work together as one.
Thank you. Beautiful. That's how we
So many people. Look, we.
I got my hand.
Just quickly.
No, I was just going to say therapy, more therapy.
More therapy, definitely.
And more mentoring.
Okay. Right, I'm going to go down there.
These last two over here.
Just empower the young people and get them on the streets and get some outreach working for young people out there. That's what you need.
I think
you need to start talking to young people and finding out what they need.
Yeah.
Right.
Quick. Keep it moving.
Solutions, more interaction. Me, with you with her with his. We were walking down the street today, we was down the City of London, and what we realised was that we had ownership of the City of London. I went to 2 meetings in a very, very, very big building, like we was talking about. And we through every person that we walked past, did we own the streets? Yes, we did. Although, out of every, how many did we call? 10 people? Every 10 people, I only saw one person that looked like me. So when we did encounter someone that looked like me, I went, hello. You know what they did? They walked straight on by.
Solutions.
Hello, I'm Maxine. What's your name? Hi, Sean. That's all it takes.
Yeah. Connection. That's the very last one, that lady there. Very, very last one. I know, I'm so sorry. Very last one. Community wants to talk. We don't do this enough.
Should we set up a GoFundMe to raise money?
For what?
To fight knife crime.
No, we could charge partner hand. Everybody charge partner hand. We don't need GoFundMe. Okay? All right. So, thank you, but it's fast thinking. Okay.
I think we're going to close the time because we're actually over time. I've got to thank everyone for their comments. And obviously, well, let's have a round of applause for that. We're winding up now. We're winding up. I'd like to thank Great City, of course, Margaret, at the back there. Without her, we couldn't have done this event. I mean, really show you, because without her, we could not have done this event. Come on, give a Red City and the team a big round of applause. Also, I'd like to thank our panelists. Thank you. Thank you for coming out. And of course, Sheba Monster, she's done a great job today. Yeah. And our mayor and our friend councillor John Bevan up there. Now I'll leave you, pass you on to my brother Richard, who has been the back director for the last 25 years. Go.
Been doing this for a long time, but we had a visiting director, Richard Naila. He was the one that directed all the students. You know, so give him a round of applause. I'd like to thank Margaret again. You've been a diamond. You've helped us out. Yes, she's up there by the door. And as you said, if it wasn't for Greg City Academy, we won't be doing this today. All right, and
they gave us the place for free.
Yeah. So that is enough support. Yeah, and sometimes we need that little help because funding is difficult. Yeah. Oh yes, Robert. Robert is Margaret's son, and he's done a good job today. Thank you very much for doing that.
Jackie and Marilyn and our volunteers.
Yeah.
And the two jockeys.
All of BAP for helping to put this together. We've got Marcel here at the front. None of them would come up and speak, so you know. You want to say something, Marcel? See, I told you. Right, so the young people, they're from our drama class. And they go there every Saturday. They could be doing other things, but they're with us doing drama. And we're trying to make sure that they get experience on events like this. So this is what we work hard towards.
They need to go into schools.
Yeah, well,
they need to, young people need to see young people doing stuff like that.
It's true, it's true. Yeah. So,
you know that they,
quick, you know.
The Black Panther, that actress, she come from back, didn't it?
Yeah.
Letitia
Wright.
Wow.
Letitia Wright. When she was 11, she was in our drama class, and she moved on to Black Panther, Avengers, and all that. And we had Dwayne Boachi, who went on to Hollyoaks.
Is that the one with the sister?
Yeah, the sister. And we had my good friend actor there, Francis.
Emerging star he is. It's an emerging star he is. Emerging. We're going to get that contact from him, don't
This
worry.
man here, he's a good find. I found this young man. I work at Belmont Park School, and that's where he was, yeah? And we also have another young man from Belmont Park School, right? So this guy, I knew he would do well in acting, and he's here today, and I'm sure he amazed all of you guys, you know? So give everyone a round of applause. And what I'd like to say is, we do struggle to put on shows like this, and I wondered if you guys could give us a small donation, put it in the bucket that will help for us to help develop the young people and put on more shows that you guys can come out and enjoy.
And please fill your audience surveys while you're on the way
And could you quickly fill out these for us because they're important as well. So that's it. That's another back show.
Don't take card payments.
Okay, we'll take anything you've got, all right?
Thank you all for coming. Good night and get home safely.
Thank you for coming out. Safe trip home.